One, while biking with my boyfriend and his female bestie, I took a break and found a live snake inside my instant noodle cup after I was bitten by a venomous snake. His female bestie called me dramatic because they were in a hurry and refused to take me to the hospital. I died from the poison on the way after being reborn. I happened to see his female bestie trying to swap out my instant noodle cup. It wasn't until the searing pain spread from my ankle throughout my body that I finally saw the silver ring snake slithering out of the instant noodle cup. The black and white scales gleamed coldly under the convenience store's harsh fluorescent lights, its forked tongue flicking rapidly, with beads of venom still glistening on its fangs. Ah! The scream caught in my throat. I staggered back and crashed hard into the shelf. The instant noodle cup hit the floor, scalding broth splashing onto my pant legs. But the snake swiftly coiled around my ankle and bit down hard again. Xiaomi, what are you doing? Hurry up, my boyfriend, Jiang Junxing, called from the checkout counter, his voice thick with impatience. Beside him, Su Panpan was covering her mouth and laughing, her eyes full of smug anticipation as if she couldn't wait to watch the show. That instant noodle bucket had been brought from her home, with a snake hidden inside. She had secretly swapped out my noodle bucket just waiting for me to make a fool of myself. When I opened it, I pointed at the snake writhing around my ankle, my voice trembling. A snake, there's a snake, help me. Jiang Junxing walked over, but after seeing what was happening, he frowned. It's just a little snake. Do you really have to get this scared? Su Panpan came over and patted my back in a pretentious, hypocritical way. Xiaomi, I'm sorry. I just wanted to play a little prank on you. I didn't expect you'd be this afraid of snakes. A prank? I looked at the rapidly swelling red wound at my ankle, where the venom had already begun to spread. It's a crite, it's venomous. Junxing, take me to the hospital, now. Poisonous, don't make such a big deal out of it. Jiang Junxing waved it off indifferently. What poisonous snakes could there be around here? It's definitely just a pet snake, and non-venomous at that. He turned and glared at Su Panpan. But his tone was indulgent. Panpan, don't pull jokes like this next time. Look how scared you've made her. Su Panpan stuck out her tongue, the smile in her eyes deepening. Got it, Brother Jun. I just think Sister Xiaomi is usually too serious, so I wanted to help her relax a little. I could feel my vision starting to blur, my body growing heavier by the second. The pain in my ankle had gone numb, spreading through my veins toward my heart. I clutched Jiang Junxing's arm tightly. Junxing, I really don't feel well. Take me to the hospital, please. Can you not be so dramatic? Jiang Junxing shook off my hand irritably. It's just a snakebite, tough it out and it'll pass. We still need to keep riding. What if we fall behind schedule? Exactly, Xiaomi. We finally managed to get out for a ride together. Don't let something this small ruin the mood. Besides, going to the hospital now would be such a hassle. Let's talk about it when we get to the next town. Their words were like daggers, stabbing straight through my heart. Looking at Jiang Junxing's cold face and Su Panpan's gleeful expression, I finally understood. They didn't care whether I lived or died. Just before my consciousness faded completely, I saw Jiang Junxing pull out his phone. Instead of calling 120, he was complaining to his friends about how I was making a big deal out of nothing. Su Panpan, meanwhile, crouched on the ground and carefully put that silver ring snake into a transparent plastic box, muttering, "Good thing it didn't bite me. Otherwise, Brother Jun would definitely blame me for being careless." So they had known from the very beginning that it was a venomous snake. So this so-called joke was actually a deliberate murder. My body grew colder and colder, as if I were plunging into endless darkness. Before I lost consciousness completely, there was only one thought in my mind. If I could do it all over again, I would make them pay too. Xiaomi, what are you spacing out for? We're almost at the rest area. Let's stop there, take a break, and grab something to eat before we go on. The familiar voice rang in my ear, and I suddenly opened my eyes. The blinding sunlight, the familiar highway, and Jiang Junxing and Su Panpan riding mountain bikes beside me. Everything was exactly the same as the day of the accident in my memory. I looked down at my ankle. No cuts, no swelling. Everything was perfectly fine. Jiang Junxing and Su Panpan looked as tired as anyone after a long ride, but beneath their smiles was the same calculating expression I remembered. I was reborn. I had been reborn right in the middle of our cycling trip, just before we reached the service area where I would lose my life. My heart began pounding wildly, not from fear, but from excitement. This time, I wouldn't let anyone butcher me at will. Everything I was owed, I would take back little by little, every last bit of it. Sister Xiaomi, what's wrong? You don't look well. Are you tired? Su Panpan rode up beside me and asked with concern. Her backpack zipper wasn't fully closed, And I could clearly see a cup noodle box inside, the very box containing the silver-ringed snake. That killed me. It's here. Everything is exactly the same as in my past life. I pushed down the hatred rising in my chest and forced out a pale, strained smile. I'm probably just a little tired. It's fine. We can rest at the gas station once we get there. Jiang Junxing also slowed down and turned back to say to us, "There's a gas station up ahead. Let's stop and grab something to eat. They should have instant noodles. Here it comes. This is it." In my previous life, it was Jiang Junxing who offered to buy me instant noodles, and Su Panpan took the chance to swap the noodle cup when I wasn't paying attention. I looked at Jiang Junxing, my expression calm and unreadable. "Sure, then let's buy a bucket. Get me a non-spicy one." As soon as Su Panpan heard that, she panicked. "Sister Xiaomi, don't you usually love spicy food? Why don't you want anything spicy now?" I knew what she was anxious about. Changing the instant noodle brand all of a sudden had thrown off her plans. The one she'd prepared for me was the flavor I usually liked best. My throat's a bit irritated, and it hurts. Let's switch to a non-spicy one. A hint of barely concealed delight flashed in Su Panpan's eyes. She immediately said, "Brother Jun, I'll go buy it with you. Sister Xiaomi can just wait here for us." "No need." I cut in first. "I'd like to stretch my legs too. Let's go together." I couldn't let them go off on their own. I had to keep a close eye on them myself if I wanted a chance to switch. The instant noodle bucket. Jiang Junxing paused for a moment, then nodded. "Sure, let's go together." The three of us pushed our bicycles into the convenience store at the service area. Jiang Junxing went to get water, and Su Panpan beat me to the noodle shelf. She shoved 2 bowls of plain instant noodles to the back of the shelf, then quickly placed the noodle box from her bag in the middle. When she was done, a smug smile spread across her face. She turned to Jiang Junxing and me and said, "Brother Jun, Sister Xiaomi, what bad luck. There aren't any plain ones, but there's one Xiaomi likes. Let's pick this one." I sneered inwardly. The direction she was pointing at was exactly the bucket of instant noodles where she had just hidden the snake. Jiang Junxing walked over, picked up the cup of instant noodles, handed it to me, and said, "Xiaomi, is this the one?" I only felt a chill run through my whole body. In my previous life, I thought Su Panpan was just making trouble with me, but it turned out he knew too. "I don't want to eat this." I deliberately didn't take it. 3. "This one tastes good. Let's all eat the same thing." "Xiaomi, you're being way too fussy." Jiang Junxing shoved the instant noodle cup into my arms. He casually picked up 2 more just like it and walked with me toward the water dispenser. "Make your own. You're not a child," Su Panpan said, giving Jiang Junxing a meaningful glance. Jiang Junxing immediately stood behind me and waited for me to make the noodles. In my last life, this was when I was bitten by a venomous snake. "Oh no, our car." I suddenly pointed outside. When the 2 of them saw a big truck quickly driving away, they rushed out. I took the chance to swap for Su Panpan's instant noodle cup. Holding Su Panpan's instant noodle cup, I walked to the door and nervously looked outside, watching them lift their bicycles back up. The 2 of them came back cursing under their breath, seeing that I still hadn't opened the noodle cup. Su Panpan looked a little impatient. "Xiaomi, hurry up and make it. We're still in a rush." "You guys haven't made yours either," I said unhappily. Su Panpan had no choice but to stride over to the water dispenser, pick up her own instant noodle cup, open the lid, and get ready to pour in the hot water. Just then, she suddenly let out a scream. "Ah, a snake!" Jiang Junxing and I both looked over, and saw a silver-ringed snake slither out of Su Panpan's instant noodle bucket and quickly dart away. Su Panpan went pale and threw herself into Jiang Junxing's arms. "So she's not even pretending anymore. How could there be a snake in the instant noodle bucket? No way. I'm going to file a complaint." I picked up my phone, but Jiang Junxing cut me off. "Forget it. Don't make trouble." I was clutching my phone. The emergency screen still lit up. Jiang Junxing's "Forget it. Don't make a fuss" stabbed into me like a needle, making my chest ache. In my past life, he was just like this. After I was bitten by a venomous snake, he turned a blind eye to my suffering. Now, when Su Panpan ran into the same so-called accident, his first instinct wasn't to dig deeper, but to keep the peace. The only thing was, this accident was originally meant to happen to me. Su Panpan was still trembling in Jiang Junxing's arms, her face as pale as paper, but I clearly saw her hand hanging by her side quietly tighten around the hem of her clothes. There wasn't a trace of real fear in her eyes, only panic at having her plan thrown off course. Jiang Junxing patted her back, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "Don't be afraid, Panpan, the snake's already gone. It's okay now." "Brother Jun, I'm so scared," Su Panpan said in a trembling voice, but she deliberately raised it, as if she wanted me to hear. I never thought there'd be a snake in the instant noodle bucket. What if it had bitten Sister Xiaomi? I let out a cold laugh at that. She wasn't really worried about me at all. She was clearly testing Jiang Juanxing's attitude, and also saying it for my benefit, to make me realize just how unimportant I was. As expected, Jiang Juanxing went along with her and said, "Fortunately, it didn't bite anyone. Xiaomi, don't take it to heart. I guess the service station didn't store things properly, and the snake got in. Let's finish our instant noodles and hurry up. Don't delay the trip." As he spoke, he even reached out to take the instant noodle cup from my hands. As if he wanted to put this whole thing behind us once and for all. I sidestepped his hand and pretended not to hear the perfunctory tone in his words. But what if there are more snakes? This is too dangerous. Filing a complaint would also be for the sake of the people coming after us. Su Panpan immediately sat up from Jiang Juanxing's arms and wiped away tears that didn't even exist. "Sister Xiaomi, let it go. We still have to keep moving. And arguing with the gas station would waste too much time. Besides, the snake already ran off. Maybe it was just a coincidence." As she spoke, she kept giving Jiang Juanxing meaningful looks. Jiang Juanxing quickly backed her up. "Exactly, just a coincidence. Panpan didn't even say anything, so why are you being so serious?" Watching them play off each other, the last shred of hope I had for Jiang Juanxing completely shattered, for in my previous life, I was foolish enough to think he had only been misled by Su Panpan and simply didn't care enough about me. But now it seemed he had been on Su Panpan's side from the very beginning, and may even have known about her plan all along. Otherwise, why would he have forced that cup of instant noodles into my arms when I refused it? Why would he have deliberately stood behind me, waiting? Before Su Panpan opened the noodle container, I didn't keep insisting on filing a complaint. Instead, I quietly picked up my own cup of instant noodles and walked over to a table in the corner. Jiang Juanxing and Su Panpan thought I had backed down, so they came over with their noodles too. Only, Su Panpan's gaze at me carried a hint more caution and displeasure. After I'd made my instant noodles, I used going to the restroom as an excuse and quietly slipped around to the corner by the convenience store's back door. That was where they had just gone to steady their bicycles, and it was also the best place to talk in private. Sure enough, the moment I hid myself, I heard Jiang Juanxing and Su Panpan's voices. "Panpan, are you okay? You scared me to death just now." Jiang Juanxing's voice was full of concern, with a hint of barely noticeable reproach. "Didn't I tell you to put the snake in her noodle cup? How did it end up in your own cup?" Su Panpan sounded a little wronged, and a bit impatient too. How was I supposed to know? Who knew she would suddenly say she wanted to go buy them together? I could only leave the cup with the snake on the shelf for the moment, thinking she'd definitely pick the flavor she likes best. But she didn't take it. She even swapped out my cup. "She swapped your cup?" Jiang Juanxing paused, his tone turning somewhat complicated. "Are you sure? Could you have remembered it wrong?" "How could I remember it wrong?" Su Panpan raised her voice. When she suddenly shouted for a car just now, she was clearly luring us out on purpose so she could swap the cups while we were gone. Junji stopped defending her. She must have sensed something. Then Su Panpan's voice dropped, taking on a hint of coquetry. "Today is my birthday, after all. I told you what I wanted as a birthday gift. I want her to make a complete fool of herself and know that the person you care about most is me." Now the snake didn't bite her and almost bit me instead. What is this supposed to mean? A birthday gift? I hid around the corner, cold all over. So the prank I suffered in my previous life was never an accident at all. It was the birthday surprise Su Panpan had specially asked for. My fear and pain were her gift, and Jiang Juanxing had actually gone along with such an absurd request, even helping her scheme against me. All right, I know." Jiang Juanxing's voice softened. "I didn't think it through and let her slip through the cracks." He paused, then added, "But it doesn't matter. Even if she senses something, she has no proof. Besides, we still have the next step planned, don't we?" Su Panpan's voice immediately brightened. "Sabotage her bike." "Yes," Jiang Juanxing said darkly, a hint of malice in his voice. "When I was helping with the bike just now, I secretly loosened her brake cable a little. Once we get to the downhill stretch ahead, she'll definitely run into trouble because the brakes fail. By then, she'll be injured and won't be able to keep riding, so she'll have no choice but to head back early. That way, you get to vent your anger, and we can keep going on our trip in peace. Isn't that better? Brother June, you're amazing." Su Panpan's voice was full of excitement. "Let's do that. When she falls, I'll pretend to care about her and let her know that even if something happens to her, you'll still only be with me." So not only were they planning to have me bitten by a snake, They'd also set up a backup plan to make me crash and get injured on the ride. 5. In my past life, dying from the poison might have been quick enough, if I hadn't been bitten by the snake. What waited for me was a bike crash after the brakes failed. They never intended to let me make it home safely. I forced down the hatred surging in my heart and quietly backed away. When I got back to the convenience store, Jiang Junxing and Su Panpan had already finished their instant noodles. They were sitting at the table waiting for me, wearing nonchalant smiles, as if the vicious conversation from just now had never happened. Xiaomi, why were you gone so long? Su Panpan asked insincerely. Are you feeling unwell? I carried my barely touched bowl of noodles over to them. Nothing, I just thought I saw a mouse outside earlier, so I took a little detour. I deliberately paused, letting my gaze land on the brand new cycling clip-in shoes on Su Panpan's feet, and added with a hint of casual admiration, Panpan, did you just buy those clip-ins? They look pretty professional. I just don't know how they actually feel to ride in. After all, clip-in shoes do require a pretty high level of skill. If you don't clip in properly or unclip in time, falling would be a real problem. Su Panpan was, as expected, hit where it hurt. She unconsciously straightened her back, about to show off, but then remembered the snake from earlier. Her tone carried a hint of defiance. These clip-ins were bought for me by Jun Ji. He specially picked the professional model. How could they be no good? I've already practiced several times. I acted surprised and raised an eyebrow. Really? But I remember you almost fell even riding on flat ground before. The stretch ahead has quite a few loose stones and potholes, and you'd have to shift gears and brake constantly. Wouldn't using clip-ins be too risky? I turned to look at Jiang Junxing, speaking earnestly. Junxing, don't you think so? Safety comes first. After all, if Panpan really fell, we'd all see how heartbroken you'd be. Why don't we skip it this time? You and I can use the clip-ins. Panpan still needs more practice, so don't force it. Her words landed like a thorn, hitting Su Panpan's competitive streak dead on. What she cared about most was being better than me in front of Jiang Junxing. How could she possibly accept being told her skills were inferior to mine? She immediately grabbed Jiang Junxing's arm, her voice urgent and coquettish. June, look at how she's talking about me. I can definitely do it. Today I'm going to ride in clip-in shoes just to show her, so she knows my skills aren't any worse. Jiang Junxing looked at Su Panpan's reddened eyes, then glanced at me. A trace of hesitation flashed in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by indulgence towards Su Panpan. He patted Su Panpan's hand, his tone affectionate. Alright, if you want to try, then use clip-in shoes. Just be careful on the road. I'm here, so I won't let you fall. I sneered inwardly, but on the surface I put on an exasperated look. Fine, since you both say so, I won't keep talking you out of it. By the way, when I checked the route yesterday, I found a shortcut. The scenery is better than the main road, and it also lets you avoid the construction up ahead. Want to give it a try? 6. Jiang Junxing and Su Panpan exchanged a glance, and Su Panpan spoke first. A shortcut? How much time will it save? We want to reach the next town sooner. It'll cut out several kilometers of rough road, and according to the travel guide, there aren't many people over there, so the photos turn out really well. I deliberately waved my phone. Its screen showing the scenic shots I'd found in advance. Aren't you always talking about getting some cycling check-in photos? That spot will definitely do the trick. Su Panpan was indeed drawn in by the photos. She tugged on Jiang Junxing's arm. Brother Jun, let's take the shortcut. I want to take some beautiful pictures. Jiang Junxing had been hesitating, worried the road conditions might be bad, but he couldn't resist Su Panpan's sweet talk in the end and nodded. Fine, we'll do it your way and take the shortcut, but you have to stay close to me on the way and don't fall behind. Before we set off, I pretended to check my bike and quietly looked at the brake cable. As expected, Jiang Junxing had tampered with it. The brake travel was clearly longer, and the braking power was much weaker, but I was already prepared. I checked the bike the night before and packed my tools. When I went to the restroom just now, I took the chance to fix the brakes while they weren't paying attention. We pushed our bikes out of the service area and rode along the main road for a short while before I pointed to a weedy side path at the fork. This is it, just follow the tire tracks once you're in. Jiang Junxing frowned. This road looks way too rough. Are you sure we can ride it? Don't worry, the guide says it's perfectly rideable. It's just a bit bumpy at first. It gets better after that. As soon as I finished speaking, I rode in first. Clipless shoes lock your feet into the pedals. On a road like this, a beginner in clipless shoes might as well be courting death since you made my previous life end in such a miserable death. How could I possibly let you go back in one piece? The trail was rougher than I'd Described, the path was uneven, strewn with loose rocks and jutting tree roots, and every so often I had to steer around the bushes along the roadside. I'd done my homework in advance, so I knew where the potholes were and where I needed to slow down. Drawing on the skills I'd built up over time, I handled the bike steadily, even glancing back at them from time to check how they were doing. At first, Supampan happily followed behind, eager to race me for speed, but before long she was in a flurry of confusion. Sure enough, her clip-in shoes became a burden. When she hit bumps and needed to lift her feet quickly, the cleats failed to release in time several times, and she nearly fell off. Jiang Junxing stayed right beside her, using one hand to brush away branches from the roadside while reminding her to slow down, leaving him no time to spare for me. After another 10 minutes or so, a steep slope appeared ahead. The path was covered in loose gravel, and beside it was a sheer drop. If you fell, the consequences would be unimaginable. I took a deep breath, slowed down in advance, shifted my weight, and rode down with great caution. My tires had good grip, and with the brakes fixed, I managed to barrel down the slope fairly steadily. Even though it was bumpy, I stopped at the bottom of the hill and looked back at them. Supampan was standing at the top of the slope, her face pale as she looked at the steep incline and loose gravel. She was obviously a little scared. She wanted to come down, but didn't dare move. With her feet clipped into the pedals, she couldn't even get off and push the bike. Pan, if you can't do it, just get off and push, I called out on purpose, my tone laced with a well-meaning reminder. This slope is way too steep, and it's too dangerous with clip-in shoes. Already frightened, Supampan was provoked by me and, instead of backing down, stubbornly shook her head. None of your business, I can ride down it. With that, she took a deep breath, gave a hard shove on the pedals, and charged down 7. But her skills just couldn't handle this kind of terrain. She had barely gone a few meters when a loose stone caught her wheel, throwing the bike off balance in an instant and sending her tumbling down the slope beside the road. Ah! Supampan let out a scream, frantically trying to unclip her shoes, but she just couldn't get them loose. Seeing that something was wrong, Jiang Junxing no longer cared about the danger. He immediately rode down after her, reaching out to grab Supampan. But he was so focused on her that he didn't notice the loose stones under his wheels. The bike skidded, and instead of catching her, he crashed into her. With 2 dull thuds, Jiang Junxing and Supampan both fell onto the slope. The bike toppled over nearby, its parts scattered all over the ground. Supampan's clipped-in shoe was still stuck on the pedal, and her leg was pinned under the bike. The pain brought tears to her eyes. Jiang Junxing wasn't any better off. A long gash had been cut into his thigh by a branch, and blood immediately began seeping out. I slowly rode over and stopped in front of them, my face full of surprise and concern. Junxing, Pan, are you okay? Are you hurt? I told you this slope was too dangerous. I told you to push the bike down. Why didn't you listen? Supampan lay on the ground, in so much pain she couldn't speak. She could only glare at me, her eyes brimming with resentment and unwillingness. Jiang Junxing struggled to his feet, supporting Supampan with one hand as he frowned at me. Cut the nonsense, hurry up and help us lift the bike and see if it can still be ridden. I let out an "oh" and sauntered over, pretending to help lift the bike, but deliberately brushed against Supampan's leg. Ah, it hurts, Supampan cried out in pain. Jiang Junxing immediately shot me a glare. Watch what you're doing. I lowered my head, hiding the cold smirk in my eyes. Jiang Junxing, Supampan, this is only the beginning. What you owed me in my past life, I'll take back little by little, with interest. Didn't you want to humiliate me and hurt me? Well now, it's time for you to taste that same fear and pain. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Jiang Junxing clutching his leg as he collapsed to the ground. The dark cycling pants were soaking through with blood at a visible pace, dripping from the hem onto the gravel and spreading into a small pool of dull red. The color drained from his face in an instant, and his breathing quickened. The anger that had been in his eyes a moment ago was now replaced by unmistakable panic. Brother Jun, what's wrong? Supampan finally shook off the pain in her leg. Seeing Jiang Junxing like this, her voice carried a hint of panic even she hadn't noticed. But the next second, she frowned again, holding her knee and whining. My leg hurts too, it must be broken. Brother Jun, tell her to help me up first. Jiang Junxing gritted his teeth, cold sweat beating on his forehead. He tried to speak, but all that came out were broken, gasping breaths. The bleeding won't stop. I knew full well he'd hit an artery. If we kept dragging this out, his life could be in danger. I couldn't let him die this early. That would be letting him off too easy, wouldn't it? 8. I immediately set down the bicycle in my hands and pulled the first aid kit I'd prepared in advance out of my backpack. In my past life, I'd been injured while cycling, and ever since then I'd made a habit of carrying a first aid kit with me. I never expected it would come in handy on Jiang Junxing in this life. Don't move. I crouched down, my tone calm and unmistakably firm. An artery's been torn. We need to stop the bleeding with pressure first. I ripped open Jiang Junxing's pant leg, and the gruesome wound came into full view, blood still gushing out. I quickly took sterile gauze, folded it into a thick pad, and pressed it hard over the wound, then wrapped it tightly with elastic bandage, layer after layer, until the bleeding slowed. Jiang Junxing was trembling all over from the pain, but he didn't dare struggle anymore. He just clenched his lips tightly, and the look he gave me had taken on a complicated edge. Seeing that I was only focused on bandaging Jiang Junxing and had completely ignored her, Su Panpan immediately cried out in dissatisfaction, "Hey, can't you see I'm injured too? My leg can't even move. Why won't you help me first? Junji, look at her. She's bullying me," as she shouted. Her eyes reddened with grievance, and tears fell one after another. "I'm in so much pain. I should never have listened to you and taken this shortcut, and now things have turned out like this. You still won't help me." Jiang Junxing had just caught his breath when he heard Su Panpan crying, and immediately softened, enduring the searing pain in his leg. He reached out to wipe her tears away, his voice weak but still indulgent. "Panpan, don't cry. I'm fine, just wait a little longer. Once the ambulance gets here, it'll be okay." "Wait for what?" Su Panpan shook off his hand and cried even harder. "What if my leg leaves a scar? This is all your fault. You had to listen to her and take the shortcut. Look what happened now. We're both injured." I looked at their back and forth with a cold eye, took out my phone, and called emergency services, clearly reporting our location and both of their injuries, with special emphasis that Jiang Junxing's artery had ruptured and that the situation was critical. After hanging up, I told them, "The ambulance should be here in about 20 minutes, but this road is too narrow for it to get in. I need to go up ahead to the fork and meet it there. Stay here and don't move." Jiang Junxing nodded, but Su Panpan was still sniffling and muttering complaints under her breath. I didn't bother with them anymore, turned around, got on my bicycle, and hurried toward the fork. By the time I brought the ambulance back to the entrance of the side road, the medical staff had already come down carrying a stretcher. Seeing the stretcher from afar, Su Panpan's eyes lit up at once. She didn't even care about crying anymore and struggled to her feet. "A stretcher? Give me the stretcher now. My leg is broken. I can't wait any longer." Just as the medics were about to carry the stretcher over to her, I stepped forward and said calmly, "Doctor, please check on Jiang Junxing first. He has a ruptured artery, and the bleeding hadn't fully stopped when he was bandaged earlier. He may already be suffering severe blood loss, and his condition is more urgent than hers." As soon as Su Panpan heard that, she panicked at once. She clutched the stretcher handle tightly and refused to let go. "Why does he get rescued first? I'm injured too. Brother Jun cares about me the most. He definitely let me onto the stretcher first." As she spoke, she suddenly went limp, closed her eyes, and actually fainted on the spot, lying motionless on the ground. 9. The medical staff hurried over to check on Su Panpan, and her fake fainting naturally fooled no one. "Can you stop causing trouble? What are you faking a faint for?" Jiang Junxing had been enduring the pain and was about to let Su Panpan onto the stretcher first, but when he heard she was only pretending to faint, and thought back to how she had complained when he was injured just moments ago, his heart suddenly turned cold. Looking at the bandage on his leg, which was still soaking through with blood, the fear of death seized him instantly. He struggled to reach out and shouted to the medical staff, "Save me first. I've lost too much blood. I can't hold on much longer." Hearing Jiang Junxing's voice, Su Panpan cracked one eye open and saw that he was actually trying to fight her for the stretcher. She immediately snapped fully awake. She lunged at him and shoved Jiang Junxing away from the stretcher. "Jiang Junxing, how can you do this? Didn't you say I mattered most to you, and now you won't even let me have a stretcher?" She didn't hold back at all. In the scuffle, she happened to hit Jiang Junxing's wound, and the blood that had just been stopped immediately started pouring out again, soaking the bandage red. "Miss, your injury isn't serious. It's just a scrape, and there's no fracture. If it were broken, you wouldn't be able to take a single step now. Please let this gentleman get on the ambulance first. His condition is much more dangerous." The medical staff were at a loss. Jiang Junxing let out a scream of pain, and the look he gave Su Panpan turned completely cold. There was no trace left of his earlier indulgence or tenderness. "Su Panpan, have you had enough? I'm about to die, and all you care about is yourself." "What did I do?" Su Panpan snapped back, putting her hands on her hips. "You were supposed to give in to me in the first place. You said you'd protect me forever. And now you can't even handle something this small. You're a liar. The two of them immediately started arguing, each blaming the other. I stood off to the side and pretended to step in and break them up. Stop arguing, let the doctor take a look first. Fighting like this isn't going to solve anything. But there wasn't a trace of urgency in my voice. Instead, there was a faint, almost imperceptible hint that I was just watching the show. Xiaomi, help me, I feel awful. Jiang Junxing put all his hopes on me and reached out for help. How could I dare upset Pan if I make you mad? She can plead for me. But if I make her mad, that's a death sentence. No one can save me. I looked at Jiang Junxing with innocent eyes, and I could feel his despair in my previous life. I pleaded with him just like this to save me, and he didn't care at all. So the fact that I've already called an ambulance is more than enough kindness on my part. Just then, Jiang Junxing suddenly saw everything go dark. His body swayed. Then he collapsed heavily to the ground, completely losing consciousness. The medical staff rushed over to check on him, and with a grave expression said, "No, he's lost too much blood, we have to get him to the hospital right away." They no longer paid any attention to Su Ponpon's cries and quickly lifted Jiang Junxing onto the stretcher, running toward the ambulance. Seeing this, Su Pan no longer had time to argue. She chased after them, crying out, "Wait for me, you can't leave me behind. Jiang Junxing, wake up." But the medical staff ignored her completely and soon disappeared at the end of the path. I looked at Su Ponpon's helpless, furious expression, and a cold smile curled at the corner of my lips. "What are you laughing at? This is all your fault. Call another ambulance for me, now." Su Pan turned around and ordered me. "Why should I? I'm not your maid." "What, do you have no hands or feet?" I sneered. "I knew you were faking it. You're disgusting. You're so obedient all the time, but when it matters most, you show your true colors. Don't you? I'll make Brother Jun see through you. Just you wait." She pointed at me and cursed at me. "Your brother Jun, if he can even survive." With that, I picked up my bike and rode home. "Don't go, don't leave me here, I'm scared." Su Pan cried out as she chased after him for a few steps, then collapsed to the ground and burst into tears. "Just wait, someone will come to save you." I tossed the words over my shoulder lightly and rode off faster and faster. Unfortunately, out in this desolate wilderness, no one was coming to save the princess. But it wasn't over yet. Their punishment had only just begun. Later, although Jiang Junxing was rushed to the hospital in time, the blood flow to his lower limbs had been cut off for too long and the tissue had already died, so in the end, his leg still had to be amputated. At first, Su Pan still visited him in the hospital a few times, but the more she saw him in a wheelchair, the more obvious her disgust became. Before long, she started looking for someone else and stopped caring about Jiang Junxing altogether. Jiang Junxing finally saw Su Pan for who she really was. Then he thought of how good I'd been to him and called me countless times, asking me to come see him. After thinking it over, I still went. The once bright and spirited man now looked deeply worn, as if he had aged 20 years. "I know you're still mad at me. I only ever treated Su Pan like a sister, and I didn't consider your feelings. Let's start over. I'll love you properly this time." I almost laughed out loud. "When you were hopping around just fine, you trampled all over my feelings. Now that you can't move, you think of me. I was wrong. I really was wrong." Jiang Junxing burst into tears. "Look, this really has nothing to do with me. It was your dear little sister who got you into this state. Have you thought about it? If you'd been put on the ambulance right away, maybe your leg could have been saved." "What a pity." Sigh. I was afraid he had missed the point, so I quickly reminded him, "Sure enough." The shock of these past few days had been so great that he'd overlooked the crucial details. His eyes bulged and his teeth clenched with a grinding sound. The love he once had for Su Pan had now turned into a monstrous hatred. "Karma comes around, and debts have their owners. You're a smart man, so I won't say any more." I got up and left the hospital room, and Jiang Junxing didn't call after me. His life was over. There was no hope left for him. Su Pan really was heartless. Her social feed was buzzing. Looks like she'd already found someone else. I couldn't tell whether she was really that foolish, pretending to be clueless, or deliberately trying to provoke Jiang Junxing. Either way, she got the reaction she wanted. Jiang Junxing used his last savings to buy a lot of things Su Pan liked, and lied that he wanted to have a proper talk with her, tricking her into coming to his apartment. Just as Su Pan was gleefully expecting to reap the benefits, Jiang Junxing suddenly clutched her in a death grip, trapping her with him in the wheelchair, and charged toward the balcony. "Su Pan, didn't you want me dead? Then let's die together." His voice was laced with frantic despair. Su Pan was terrified out of her wits. She struggled desperately, but she couldn't break free. With a deafening crash, the two of them plunged from the 22nd floor together and ended up dying side by side. I saw the news on the evening report. As I watched the story on the screen, I felt nothing at all. In my past life, they treated my life like a joke. In this one, they finally paid the price for their selfishness and cruelty. The end. That's it for the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. My parents died young, so I was taken in by a comrade's family in the countryside. With the support of the He family's parents, I married Hijoji, my childhood sweetheart, but I didn't know he already had someone he liked. After we got married, he refused to touch me, yet made me carry the blame for not being able to have children. While the He family parents kept blaming me, they took in a pair of children from a distant relative and made me raise them. As for Hijoji, he went off to the military without a second thought and barely came home once a year after that. 18 years later, I had raised the children into adults, and they even got into Tsinghua University. Hijoji brought another woman home to attend the celebration dinner for the college acceptance, and announced in front of everyone that those two children were their biological kids. Watching their family of 6 loving each other so dearly, I finally realized I was the only one kept in the dark. In a fit of anger, I stormed off in despair, only to accidentally fall off a cliff into the vast darkness of night. Given a second chance at life, I found myself back to the first year of my marriage. Madam, he sat in the seat of honor, while father, he sat off to the side smoking his pipe. A handful of scattered relatives had nearly packed the small front room. Aside from father he, mother he, and Hijo, who was holding 2 children, everyone else was sizing me up out of the corners of their eyes. I stood at the doorway, saying nothing. Mother, he cleared her throat. Lin Shu, you've come at just the right time. This is the newborn child of third aunt from Gaojia village. She already has 3 children. I heard it hasn't been easy for you and Zhou to conceive, so she specially brought the baby here to ask if you'd be willing to raise it. I lifted my eyes and glanced over. Su Jingyan was mixed in with the crowd, looking at the baby in Hijoji's arms with an expression full of maternal tenderness. It turned out that, in a corner I knew nothing about, Su Jingyan had already appeared before me so early on. Everyone was waiting for my answer, but mother, he remained calm and unruffled, as if certain I wouldn't refuse. After all, for a whole year after our marriage, she made a point of asking about my womb at every meal until I turned pale, my face full of shame. I asked Hijoji, are you going to raise them? Hijoji seemed unprepared for my question. He frowned slightly. Children are something for you women to handle. What does that have to do with us men? If you want to raise them, I won't stop you. Fine, then I won't raise them. But if you're going to raise them, you should do it wholeheartedly. Don't let down the good intentions of the children's parents. What do you say? What? Hijoji froze and looked at me in disbelief. The surroundings fell silent, and the murmurs died down. I replied calmly, I'm only 19, it's not impossible for me to conceive, so why should I raise someone else's child? Hijoji looked at me, his eyes full of disapproval. Why are you being so unreasonable? Third aunt meant well, but I never expected you to be so short-sighted. I shot back, weren't you just saying you wouldn't get involved? Why are you so worked up the moment I say I won't raise them? He choked on his words, eyes widening as if he never expected me to defy him. His mother stepped in to smooth things over. Xiao Shu, don't speak in anger. I know you're fond of these 2 children. If you're going to raise them, I'll help you out too. I'll pitch in from this side. His father took a puff of his cigarette and said, if you're going to raise them, then tomorrow we'll open the family ancestral hall and register these 2 children under Lin, Shu, and Zhou names. A wave of speechlessness rippled through me. In my previous life, when mother he talked about helping out, it was nothing more than keeping an eye on me while never actually treating the twins well. As for washing the children's clothes, paying for their upbringing, and helping them with homework, I had done almost all of it myself. They only came to reap the fruits of my labor when they were ripe. When had they ever considered me? Faced with their decisions made entirely on their own, I raised my voice a little. I won't raise them. If they're registered under my name, then I'm getting a divorce. With that, ignoring their stunned expressions, I turned and left for the mailbox at the village entrance. I received a letter addressed to me, and when I opened it, my eyes instantly welled up. Inside was a 100 yuan bill along with a bundle of grain coupons and cloth ration tickets, priceless in the resource-strapped 1980s. The sender was my parents' college professor, Old Master Liu, who treated me like his own granddaughter. It wasn't until after I had raised my 2 children all the way to Tsinghua University in my past life that I learned he had been quietly helping me all those years, but all of it was taken by the He family's parents. There was also an acceptance letter from Tsinghua in my mailbox, which was hidden away by the He family in my past life as well, just to break all my wings and keep me docile. So I'd stay at the He family and work like a beast of burden when I got to the head of the village. I greeted Aunt Juan from the little shop before saying I wanted to call an old friend of my parents. Aunt Juan had almost watched me grow up in the He family, and she understood the bitterness of living under someone else's roof, so she didn't even take the loose change I offered and let me use the phone as I pleased. Just then, she had to step out to deliver something and asked me to watch the shop for her. I accepted Aunt Juan's kindness, decided I would repay her, and then dialed a number in Jing City. The phone rang 3 times before it was answered. A voice came over the line, aged yet strong. "Hello, may I ask who's calling?" My voice broke with emotion. "Grandpa Lu, it's me, it's Xiaoshu, Xiaoshu." So the little girl finally remembered this old man. Grandpa Lu was overjoyed, and when he heard that I'd been accepted into Tsinghua again, he was even more thrilled. If your parents knew from heaven how accomplished you've become, they'd be so happy. I also told Grandpa Lu about my current situation and said I'd be heading back to Jing City in 3 days to wait for the new semester to begin. After hearing what had happened to me, Grandpa Lu's mood immediately turned gloomy, and he felt deeply guilty for not having protected me back then. He was also very supportive of my decision and even told me to stay at his place for the time being. After I hung up, I let out a long sigh of relief. I found a place only I knew about and hid the letter and the admission notice there. In just 3 more days, I would be able to completely change my fate. When I got back to the He family home, most of the relatives had already left. Only Mr. and Mrs. He Zhouji, and Su Jingyan were still there, each holding a child. I walked over quietly, making no sound. I only heard Su Jingyan say worriedly, "Brother Zhouji, what if Sister Lin refuses to raise the child?" He Zhouji's cold, hard voice rang out. "She has to raise it whether she wants to or not. In a month, I'll be joining the army, and you'll be going to college, so what's going to happen to the child, Mrs.?" He chimed in as well. "Jingyan, don't worry and go off to college. The mother of a child should be as educated as you are. As for Lin Shu, she was raised by our family, she wouldn't dare disobey us, Mister." He put on his patriarchal air and made the final call. "That's settled then. In this family, it's not her place to make the decisions." I felt nothing. After all, even the deepest feelings had been worn down bit by the endless toil of my previous life. I walked in, and all 4 of them were startled at once. Everyone began carefully studying my expression, trying to figure out how much I had just heard. I looked at Su Jingyan, maybe feeling guilty. She turned her head away and dared not meet my eyes. He Zhouji stepped in front of her and said to me solemnly, "This is my cousin, Jingyan. She's been admitted to the normal university and will be staying at our house for the next month." I nodded and said nothing. I pretended not to hear the sigh of relief from Madame He behind me. After dinner, I went straight back to my room to pack my things. I set aside all the memories related to He Zhouji, separating them from the rest on my desk and placing them aside. I had very little that truly belonged to me, just a cotton coat for winter, and a few thin summer clothes. Compared with the wool coat Su Jingyan was wearing, mine clearly didn't even amount to the cost of half a meter of fabric. If I remember correctly, the coat she was wearing was also bought with the fabric vouchers Grandpa Lu had sent over. Although Grandpa Lu sent me a large sum of money every month, most of it was pocketed by Madame He, and only very little was spent on me. A little. They've raised me all these years, so the money from Grandpa Lu can be treated as repayment for the living expenses they spend on me. As for Grandpa Lu, I'll find a way to pay him back too. Hezhou unexpectedly walked into my room without even knocking. He tossed a wool scarf onto the bed and said to me in a condescending tone, "I've neglected you since we got married. This is something I brought back from the city. It's for you." I looked at the scarf a few times, and the pattern was practically identical to the one on Su Jingyan's coat. It must have been made from leftover fabric from making coats, and of course, he had to gather it up and haul it all the way back to bestow on me. When He Zhouji saw that I didn't say anything, he assumed I was moved by the scarf, so he pressed on while the iron was hot. "I'm enlisting in a month. You need to pay more attention to the 2 children." He paused again after saying that. "It wasn't easy for my parents to raise us this far. When you're at home, try to be more aware and help out by washing more dishes and clothes. Don't just shrug everything off like you did tonight." I almost let out a cold laugh. "You still have a month before you enlist, don't you? Why don't you help your parents with some of the housework?" He pressed his lips together for a moment before saying, "Of course I'll do my part and help out too." Suddenly, he saw the notebook and woven bracelet he had once given me lying in a corner of my desk, lonely and abandoned, as if they'd been thrown away as trash. "What did you dig these out for?" "Just tidying up a bit, tossing out what needs to go," I replied casually. He frowned deeply. suddenly stirred by an uneasy restlessness. He wanted to open the luggage I'd packed aside to take a look. But I didn't have time to stop him. Then I heard a sweet, delicate voice say, "Brother Joji, there's no hot water." Joji quickly turned and left, heading to the bathroom to heat water for Su Jingyan. He never came back that night. I slept until noon the next day, but mother, he didn't even have time to scold me. She kept pacing back and forth in the main room, looking anxious, muttering under her breath, "How could it not be there? Where on earth did it go? Could it be that they never delivered it?" I watched her with a smile, fully aware of what was going on. "Mom, what are you looking for?" Mother, his uncertain gaze swept over me, but she was sure there was no way I could know about this. "It's nothing, those two kids are hungry, go make them some formula." I gave a dry laugh. He should be the one doing this, otherwise, in another month when he enlists, he won't even get to see the kids. Before madam he could stop me, I darted out in a flash. I knew she had gone to the mailbox today and not found the grain coupons and money Grandpa Lou had sent me, so she must be anxious right now. They spent that money behind my back on the entire He family, everyone except me. In my last life, he usually used that money to smooth things over with people in the unit and ended up landing a pretty good position. Through all his scheming and flattery, he somehow ended up as a minister 18 years later, and almost all of Su Jingyan's college expenses were paid out of the envelopes I gave him. They enjoyed all the convenience I brought them, yet still took it for granted. Since when does the world work that way? I went to the village youth organization team, and it was full of Joji and Su Jingyan's rowdy circle of friends. Before I even got close, one of his childhood buddies was already heckling him. "Old he, you dote on Jingyan so much, can you really bear to send her off to college?" Nestled in Joji's arms, Su Jingyan said shyly, "What nonsense are you talking? I only think of Joji as my brother." Her childhood friend joined in the teasing. "What brother? You mean your sweetheart?" Everyone around burst into laughter. The atmosphere relaxed and lively. Joji looked pleased too, pulling Su Jingyan close. "When you go to Beijing, don't forget to miss me and the child." Su Jingyan lifted her head shyly, kissed him on the cheek, and answered, "Okay." At that moment, they brought me up again, and Joji's expression eased noticeably. I heard him say, "Lin Shu can endure hardship and is suited to staying at home to care for her parents and children. In terms of talent and learning, she doesn't measure up to Jingyan at all." It felt as if my heart had been struck hard with a hammer. Even though I knew this in my head, hearing such heartless words still filled me with anger and indignation. I felt indignant for the 20 hard years of my past life, for the education I gave up, and even for the self I abandoned. Just then, a young woman came back from outside and was startled to see me. She pulled me inside. "Sister-in-law, what are you doing out here? Come on in." The cheerful atmosphere in the room suddenly fell silent. Everyone looked at me, their expressions turning awkward. Joji and Su Jingyan hurriedly stood up and put some distance between themselves. Su Jingyan looked at me timidly. "Sister Lin, why didn't you make a sound when you came?" There was a hint of disgust in Joji's gaze as he looked at me. "Why aren't you home taking care of the kids? What are you doing here?" I looked at the lipstick mark on Joji's face and let out a mocking smile. Su Jingyan hurriedly grabbed a tissue and, in a transparent attempt to cover it up, wiped at Joji's face. "Sister Lin, it's all my fault. I was just joking around with brother Joji." Joji looked guilty for a second, then quickly straightened up again. "What's there to explain to her? Jingyan and I have been close like siblings since we were kids. There's nothing to hide about that." Maybe worried I'd expose him, his tone turned irritated. "Lin Shu, can you stop being so suspicious all the time? It's because you're like this that I don't want to come home. You know, if only you had even a little of Jingyan's gentleness." "Has Huzi?" I cut him off. It seemed only then did he realize he'd let something slip, and he awkwardly fell silent. "The two children you were dead set on adopting yesterday are hungry. Your mom called you home to feed them." I said it calmly, as if I hadn't seen the embarrassed look on his Huzi's face. "But yesterday, I did refuse to adopt those two children," and he couldn't come up with a word to argue back, so he had no choice but to follow me home. Su Jingyan bit her lip and followed behind. At the dinner table, Father, he informed me that the children's names had already been entered in the ancestral hall. I nodded without saying anything. Mother, he looked at me and gave Joji a meaningful glance. "Autumn's almost here, and Xiaoshu's clothes are getting worn. Joji, take Xiaoshu into town the day after tomorrow and buy her some new clothes." Joji glanced at me and agreed. Su Jingyan pouted aggrievedly off to the side. "Let Jingyan go too. It's on the way." "Anyway, madam," he glanced at me, and I still nodded, agreeing without hesitation. The whole family seemed a little surprised. After all, just 2 days ago, I had openly and bluntly embarrassed them to their faces. But I was thinking, if I go into Town the day after tomorrow. I can buy a train ticket and leave, and I wouldn't even need to make up an excuse. Perfect, Hijoji. I can finally leave you. I've waited 2 lifetimes for this day. 2 days later. Dawn was just breaking. Hijoji gently pulled Su Jingin out from under the covers. After patiently helping her wash up, he came to knock on my door. I beat him to the door and opened it first. When Hijoji saw me all tidied up and ready to go, he was clearly taken aback. What are you carrying such a big bag for? I slung my handbag over my shoulder, composed myself, and said flatly, I brought some food. Su Jingin popped out from behind him and looked at me with some disdain. Sister Lin, we're going to the city, not out to work the fields. Why are you bringing rations? Does the city not have food? Hearing that, Hijoji also looked a little contemptuous. If you want to bring it, fine. Just don't complain halfway and make me carry it. My excitement wasn't affected in the slightest. I answered them confidently, don't worry, it won't. The ride into town was in the village chief's pig-hauling truck. In those days, owning a vehicle was already a remarkable thing. Hijoji gently helped Su Jingin onto the truck, even carefully laying down a layer of newspaper for her so her clothes wouldn't touch anything dirty. As for me, I struggled to climb up onto the truck and just found a corner to sit down casually. A woman from the neighboring village saw how intimate Hijoji and Su Jingin were being, and couldn't help teasing them. Oh my, you two must have just gotten married, right? So affectionate, more considerate than my old man ever was. Su Jingin looked embarrassed for a moment, and Hijo froze, not knowing how to respond. It was the village chief nearby who kindly explained, sis, you've got it wrong. This one here is his wife. The auntie's odd gaze turned toward me in the corner, filled with confusion, but she didn't dare say much, and only muttered under her breath, wasn't the Qing dynasty already over? How can he still openly set his wife aside and dote on a concubine? Though her voice was soft, everyone in the carriage heard it clearly, especially Su Jinggan. Her face flushed red as she edged away a little from Hijoji's arms. Hijoji was embarrassed too, and when no one was looking, he gave me a vicious glare. I didn't pay any attention to this little drama. I only clutched the bag in my hands, as it held all my hopes. After getting off the car and once the crowd had dispersed, the look Hijoji gave me became even more impatient. In a hard tone, he said, here's $5, go buy yourself some clothes, meet back here at 3 this afternoon. With that, he tossed the $5 he was holding into my arms. Then he left without so much as looking back, with Su Jingin in his arms. Before leaving, Su Jingin glanced back at me with pity. I picked up the 5 yuan from the ground and tucked it into my pocket. Even though I knew madam he had clearly given him 50 yuan, in his eyes, I was only worth spending this much on, but it didn't matter anymore. I'd already told Grandpa Lu there was no need to send money over anymore. What had been sent before would buy off everything between us. I turned and headed for the station. It wasn't until I boarded this train bound for Beijing that the tears I'd held back for decades finally spilled over. I'd spent decades languishing in the village, never once imagining there could be another life for me. Since I was sent to the He family at the age of 5, the male I had the most contact with was Hijoji. Inevitably, I fell in love with him, but he treated me as his sister, as a nanny, as someone to use, yet never once as his wife. This love I've kept hidden for over a decade may have been nothing more than an obsession. If my parents knew that in my last life I spent all my time revolving around a man and his family, they'd probably be furious, but it doesn't matter. I'm grateful for this chance to start over. Maybe my parents up in heaven didn't want to see me suffer like that, and wished for me to live this life all over again. I hope my life from now on will always shine bright. After arriving in Beijing, I first went to the capital hospital and handed several samples of hair over to the testing department. I followed the address and arrived at Grandpa Lu's front door. It had been many years since I last came to Jing City. Standing in front of the Lu family's imposing and solemn villa, I actually felt a hint of timidity and unease. When the maid saw me, her face lit up with surprise and delight. You must be Miss Lin, right? The old master told me you'd be coming to Jing City these few days. Come in quickly, he's playing chess at the moment. I nodded and stomped my feet at the entrance for quite a while. Only after the mud on my shoes had fallen off did I step into the Lu family home. The Lu family was much quieter than I had imagined. In the vast living room, 2 elderly men were sitting there playing a game of chess. When he saw me, Grandpa Lu suddenly flung down a chess piece, disrupting the game, and immediately came over to me with his cane. Behind him, the other old man exclaimed, Lu Junin, you old rascal, cheating again. With tears glistening in his eyes, Grandpa Lu looked me over from head to toe. Good child, you've had it hard. In just a few short sentences, he miraculously smoothed away the decades of grievance I had carried. I reached out and hugged Grandpa Lu, Tears spilling down my face, a bitter ache mixed with the joy of new beginnings. I told Grandpa Lou about what had happened in the countryside. The more he listened, the angrier he got, and the unfamiliar old man beside him was equally indignant. Girl, leave this to me. If he doesn't want a divorce, he'll still have to go through with it. This is a new society now. Women in our country aren't here to be bullied. Only then did Grandpa Lou introduce me to his old friend, Professor Gu. According to Grandpa Lou, Professor Gu's wife worked for the Women's Federation. After hearing what I'd been through, he felt deeply sorry for me and, without a word, applied to his superiors to start forced divorce proceedings. When he found out I'd been admitted to Qing University, Professor Gu looked at me with even greater admiration. Before leaving, he even told me with a pointed look to study hard. It was only later that Grandpa Lou told me Professor Gu was a chemistry professor at Qing University, and the subject I wanted to study for the rest of my life was chemistry. Tsinghua doesn't start until another month. I couldn't turn down Grandpa Lou's warm invitation, so I ended up staying at the Lou family's home. I'd been worried the other members of the Lou family might have something to say about it, but to my surprise, they were just as kind as Grandpa Lou. The Lou family has 2 sons and a daughter, and all of them are married. After school, the place was full of grandchildren, filling the living room with laughter and cheerful chatter. Uncle Lou and second Uncle Lou talked with me about my academic plans, and Aunt Lou pulled me into her arms with obvious concern. Ever since my parents passed away, I had never felt warmth like this before. To repay the kindness of the Lou family, I helped tutor Grandpa Lou's grandchildren every day. Time flew by, and before I knew it, the first day of school had arrived. I said goodbye to Grandpa Lou and decided to stay in Qingda's dormitory. At Grandpa Lou's request, I would go back every week for a family dinner. Before moving into the dorm, I mailed out the 2 paternity test reports and the letter. Little did I know that my leaving had caused quite a stir in the He family. At first, when He Zhouji and Su Jing'an returned to the village, they didn't even realize I wasn't in the car. After all, they only had eyes for each other. How could they spare any thought for whether I had gotten in the car? It wasn't until the 2 children soiled the bed with urine and feces that Mother He shouted for me at the top of her lungs to come out and clean it up, but no one answered. Only then did He Zhouji remember that he had left me behind in the city. Mrs. He told him to come looking for me at once, but He Zhouji thought she was making a mountain out of a molehill. She's not a child anymore. Couldn't she find her way home? With that, he turned around and went off to be all lovey-dovey with Su Jing'an. He didn't even bother with the child's crying and fussing. Su Jing'an did feel sorry for the child, but the foul stench was so overpowering that someone like her, who had never so much as lifted a finger for housework, kept well away. So Mrs. He had no choice but to clean up the mess herself. As Mother He tidied up, she kept cursing my name. She made up her mind that if I ever came back, she'd give me a proper beating. But after waiting 4 or 5 days in a row, there was still no sign of me. The Hezhous finally realized something was off. He specially hitched a ride on the village chief's cart again, and when the chief asked why he hadn't seen Lin Shu around, he could only stammer, "She went into town to visit her cousin." The village chief found it a little strange, since he also knew I had been adopted back then. Once they got to the county seat, He Zhouji took the other selected army brothers and searched for me together. They searched from dawn till dusk, asking everyone they could, but still couldn't find any trace of me. He Zhouji took a deep breath, never expecting Lin Shu to cause him this much trouble. He held back his anger and kept looking. Only one ticket seller, a middle-aged woman, let out a surprised huh when she heard his description. "You mean that little girl, the one wearing a yellow shirt and her hair in a ponytail, right? She's a good bit taller than me." The aunt made a gesture against her own body. He Zhouda said with surprise, "That's right, Auntie. Do you know where she went?" The aunt smiled and said, "That little girl went to Jing City," she said. She was going to college. It was like a bolt of lightning exploding over He Zhou's head. Lin Shu had gone to the capital to attend university. So are they just going to abandon this family? He came home in a daze, and Mrs. He hurried over to ask what was wrong. Looking utterly lost and dejected, He Zhouji shouted bitterly after seeing his mother, "Mom, why didn't you tell me Lin Shu got into college? She's gone to the capital, Beijing. She won't be coming back now." Mrs. He went ghostly pale at once, and even Mr. He couldn't keep hold of his pipe. With a clatter, it fell to the ground and broke in two. Su Jing'an, holding the child as she came out of the bedroom, was also full of shock. "Madam," he staggered back a few steps and sat down weakly in the chair. "It's my fault. It's my fault for not keeping her ID card hidden. It's my fault for not realizing she wanted to run away." Then she seemed to remember that she hadn't received this month's money or grain coupons. She must have gone to the Liu family in Beijing to seek refuge. "Come on, let's go bring her back. She belongs to the He family in life and to the He family in death. The Liu family has no right to abduct our daughter-in-law." At that moment, He's father also picked up his pipe and carefully wiped it with the hem of his own clothes. Calm and composed, he carried himself like the head of the family. "Yes, we need to bring them back." He's father glanced at the child in Su Jing'an's arms. "Otherwise, who's going to look after my grandson and granddaughter?" Only then did he Zhouji remember that he and Su Jing'an would be leaving the village in a month. There was no way he would let the children hold up his future, so he nodded and decided that when the village chief went into town the day after tomorrow, he would buy train tickets to Beijing. In the middle of the night, Su Jing'an lay on one side of the bed, her mind in turmoil. She rolled over and said to He Zhouji, "I didn't expect Sister Lin to get into university too. I wonder which one it is." He Zhouji said irritably, "What school could she possibly get into? It's probably some vocational school." As he said that, he seemed almost ashamed to have a wife like her. He looked at Su Jing'an as if she were a treasure. "No matter what she got into, she can't compare to you. For someone like her, going to school is just a waste of money. Unlike you, you have a much brighter future." Su Jing'an was feeling rather pleased with herself too, after all. In this day and age, getting into college was rare enough, not to mention a teacher's technical school in Beijing. People for miles around envied her and praised her non-stop. But before He Zhouji had even finished dreaming of dragging Lin Shu back, the next day the village chief brought terrible news. Lin Shu had mailed back a forced divorce notice from the capital. Hearing the news, Madam, he nearly fainted. Even Mr. He, who always kept up a calm front, flew into a rage, repeatedly shouting, "This is outrageous, outrageous." He Zhouji's mind was already a complete mess, and he looked to the village chief for help. The village chief shook his head awkwardly. "Zhouji, this notice was approved by the higher-ups. I can't make that call. There's no way to change it. I heard that little Lin Shu got into Tsinghua. From now on, don't go bothering her anymore." The village chief was equally puzzled when he received the document. After all, although he was only a village chief, he had still heard of all kinds of official papers over the years, but this compulsory divorce notice issued by the Women's Federation was something he had never seen before. He and the other village cadres studied it for a long time and realized this was not something to be discussed. It was a formal declaration. It declared that Ms. Lin Shu and He Zhouji were hereby officially dissolved as husband and wife, and free to marry whomever they wished from then on. The document also included the total amount of money and grain coupons the Liu family had sent over the years. The sum was so large that even the village chief was stunned. The He family was truly insatiably greedy. With all that money combined, they could have raised and cared for 10 girls like Lin Shu properly. They even included Lin Shu's school fees and miscellaneous expenses, as if they had very high hopes for her. Yet the He family had not only made Lin Shu drop out of school at a very young age and marry He Zhouji, they also treated her with nothing but cold disdain and contempt. The villagers had all seen for themselves what Lin Shu wore and how much work she did. One look at Mr. and Mrs. He's slick, well-fed faces, and you could tell exactly where the money had gone. Fortunately, Lin Shu was hardworking enough. She even managed to teach herself into Qing University, a top-tier school. Being stared at like that by the village chief made Mr. and Mrs. He very uncomfortable. The village chief didn't stay long either. After handing over the documents, he left. That left the He family looking utterly flustered in the main room, at a complete loss. Is that Lin girl really not coming back? There was still a glimmer of hope in Mother He's eyes. The paperwork is all in place. On what grounds are we supposed to bring her back? He Zhouji seemed to have had the wind knocked out of him. He had never felt so hollow inside. Standing off to the side, Su Jing'an was seething with jealousy. She had never imagined that someone like Lin Shu could get into a top university like Qingda. A few days ago, she had even been showing off in front of Lin Shu, but Lin Shu didn't show it on her face. Who knew how many times she might have been mocking her in secret? My senior, Gu, and I had just come out of the lab together, still discussing the formula from the experiment we'd just done. A female classmate suddenly ran over and said to me anxiously, "Lin Shu, your family is looking for you at the school gate. They said something's happened at home." My heart lurched. Had something happened to Grandpa Liu? I had no choice but to hastily say goodbye to Senior Gu and hurry toward the school gate. But before I even got there, I heard a familiar voice. "I'm here to see my wife." "Who are you to stop me?" "Lin Shu, Lin Shu." It was He Zhouji's voice. When I got closer, he saw me too, his tone full of surprise. He said, "Lin Shu, come back with me. Mom and Dad are sick," I said expressionlessly. "If Auntie and Uncle here are sick, they should see a doctor. Besides, Su Jing'an is there too. Take care of them." "What are you coming to find me for?" Zhou's face stiffened for a split second when he heard how I addressed him, but he still shamelessly called out, "Lin Shu, no matter how much resentment you have toward us, for the sake of my parents raising you all these years, you should have gotten over it by now. Besides, it's only natural for a daughter-in-law to care for her parents-in-law. Just because you got into Qingda doesn't mean you can forget your roots and bite the hand that fed you." As soon as he said that, the classmates who had already been drawn over by the commotion were now looking at me with scrutiny, but they were college students after all, reasonable to a fault. None of them jumped in and took sides without knowing the facts. After hiding off to the side for who knows how long, Su Jingyan also started stirring up trouble. "Lin Shu, I know you're jealous that I'm close to brother Zhouji, but we're only cousins. How could you abandon your children and in-laws and just run off? Do you know how much the kids miss their mother?" With that, Su Jingyan picked up two scruffy-looking children from the tricycle. The children were crying their eyes out. Su Jingyan put the two pitiful children on display before the whole crowd. At this point, some in the crowd began to waver. "Lin, if that's really the case, you should go back and take care of your family." "Exactly, the child is innocent too. Now that you've had them, you have to raise them. Schooling is important, of course, but you should still cherish the person in front of you. This man seems to care about you very much." I gave a cold smile, but said nothing to refute my classmate because I knew they were only being stirred up. But public opinion is not something only Zhouji can shape. I looked at him. "Zhouji, your unit pulled you off duty, didn't it? Otherwise, how would you have the time to come bother me?" Then I looked at Su Jingyan. "What, you didn't get into college? Could it be that the fact you interfered in someone else's marriage before you were even married, and ended up with twins, has been exposed?" I'd exposed the awkward truth for Zhouji and Su Jingyan, and both of them showed flashes of embarrassment and anger on their faces. I knew I was right. Before school started, I knew that forced divorce agreement wouldn't be enough to rein in the thick-skinned He family to keep them from making trouble for me. I sent an anonymous complaint to the military unit and the university Su Jingyan attended. A month later, both their dreams were shattered at once, his dream of joining the military and her dream of going to college. After all, places as serious as the military and universities could never tolerate people with such a bad track record. When his mother heard the news, she was so furious that she fell ill and never got back on her feet. His father already had weak lungs from years of smoking, and after hearing the news, he simply collapsed and became bedridden. On top of that, with no one to look after the two children, Zhouji and Su Jingyan were overwhelmed and completely run ragged. Just thinking about me quietly going to college in Beijing made them feel even more resentful, so they simply brought the child and came to Beijing to look for me. After I pulled out the paternity test report and the ledger showing how the He family had supported me all these years, the classmates who had been deceived slowly began to realize what was going on. They started cursing at Zhouji and Su Jingyan. After all, they were educated people, so their words were not as harsh. "You two really have the nerve to go on the offensive and play the victim first. What, is your pee mad or something? That's how clueless you are about yourself. One has skin thick as a wall, the other has no shame at all. You're truly a perfect match. Lin, you're like a phoenix fallen into a chicken coop. How did you end up with such a vampire of a family?" Zhouji and Su Jingyan were red-faced from being scolded, and it was unclear which word had set him off. Zhouji stormed up to me in anger, intending to take me away on the spot. Before I could even fight back, I'd already been dragged several yards. I was just about to call for help then, with a thud, Zhouji was knocked flat to the ground by a single punch. It was Senior Brother Gu Yen. Senior Brother Gu shielded me behind him, and when Zhouji looked up and saw that, he became even more enraged. He pointed at Senior Brother Gu. "So this is your lover, is it? You abandoned our family for him." He lunged at us again, but Senior Brother Gu easily knocked him down once more. Maybe it was because people from the same school tended to stand together, or maybe they were disgusted by what Zhouji was doing. A group of powerless students also took the opportunity to pile on Zhouji. It wasn't until the security guards finally showed up that Zhouji, battered and bruised from the beating, was helped to his feet by Su Jingyan. I stood before him and said loudly, "Zhouji, I don't owe your family anything. The money your family spent on raising me wasn't even a tenth of what Grandpa Lu sent back. I've eaten your family's food, and I've never been lazy about my share of the housework. You were the one who had an affair with Su Jingyan and had a child with her first, so why are you saying I abandoned you? Everyone walks their own path. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. If you come and harass me again, don't blame me for not showing you any mercy." Zhou was stunned by my words. It was a long while before he left in disgrace with Su Jingyan. From then on, He never bothered me again. For years later I walked out of Professor Gu's office, holding the latest research findings in my hands. Professor Gu told me that this research achievement could, to a large extent, help break the foreign power's stranglehold on our country. Our country will also make a major breakthrough in the field of bombing. A string of good news came in, and my heart was practically a happy little bird, fluttering non-stop. When Senior Brother Gu came to ask me out for dinner, I readily agreed. Over the meal, Senior Brother Gu also congratulated me on achieving such outstanding results. I smiled at him. Senior Brother Gu, and you still tease me. Without your help, I'd probably still have a long way to go before achieving this. Senior Brother Gu smiled, his eyes brimming with deep affection. I panicked and looked away, but he took my hand. I understand you, you're devoted to chemistry, and you'll spend your life fighting for it, but don't forget to look at the people around you. Okay, I lowered my head and, after a long while, nodded seriously. Later, Grandpa Lu told me, after he Zhouji lost his job in the army, he spent every day at home drunk out of his mind, refusing to look for work and not caring about the children either. Su Jingyan couldn't go to college because she was held back by the two children and the whole He family. She couldn't endure that kind of life for even a year before she ran off. Now only He Zhouji was left, trying to raise the children while caring for his parents, but he was never a particularly attentive person himself. After looking after them for just a few years, his parents developed bedsores and no one took care of them, leaving them in pain and writhing in bed all day. He Zhouji let it go and allowed them to suffer themselves to death like that. As for the two children, with no one to guide them, they skipped school and fought every day. There was even someone in the village who knew the truth and mocked them to their faces. Your real mother isn't as accomplished as your former foster mother. You're just as worthless as your mother. When the two children heard that they had a capable foster mother in the city, they came home and kept throwing tantrums all day, insisting on going to the city to find their mother. Maybe the alcohol was kicking in. And He Zhouji once again forgot what I had said. He immediately bought 3 train tickets and was getting ready to head to Beijing. Little did he expect that, after getting thoroughly drunk, he would collapse on the railroad tracks and never get back up. He was gone in an instant. When the two children found me, they were filthy, looking like little beggars, crying. They said their father kept repeating this line right up until he died. This shouldn't have happened. I want to be reborn, Lin Shu. Wait for me. By then, I had already been awarded the National Medal of Merit and had become the youngest academician at the research institute. I told the two children the truth, and though they were strongly against it, I still sent them to a welfare home. After all, being soft-hearted toward them would be cruel to the version of myself in my past life. Holding the trophy in my hands, I seemed to see my former self amid the flashes of countless cameras. Her silent lips seemed to be saying, "Keep moving forward, don't look back." Senior Brother Gu stood among the crowd applauding for me, looking at me with unwavering determination. I thought to myself, I won't look back. Story 2. 3 days before the wedding, I was hit by a car and had my spine broken. Shen Ian sent the perpetrator to prison. Lying in the hospital bed, I didn't want to wake up upon hearing the sad news of my disability. In a daze of consciousness, I heard the conversation between Shen Ian and the doctor. "Mr. Shen, it's still not too late to perform the surgical treatment. A few more days later, Miss Gu will really be disabled for life. You just want Jiang Nian to be your bride. Why take the risk of causing someone's death? Let her be disabled. I'll support her for the rest of her life. If she recovers, she will definitely cause trouble at the wedding. I promised Nian Nian that I would welcome our child into the Shen family in a grand manner. Only when Guwan is completely incapacitated will she treat my child as her own. Even if she's disabled, at least she won't bully the child." In a corner that no one noticed, a tear rolled down from the corner of my eye. It turned out that the wedding I had been looking forward to for so long was just a lie. The love I had longed for was also a death warrant for me. Since that's the case, I'll grant his wish. Don't talk too much. Do as I planned. The hysterectomy must be done thoroughly. And don't let her find out. When she wakes up, I'll take her to the Welfare Institute to pick up the child. Without the chance of having children, she will surely love Yuan dearly. The doctor wiped the sweat from his forehead, feeling a twinge of compassion. "Mr. Shen, why don't you think about it again? Miss Gu is already paralyzed from the waist down. If you remove her uterus, isn't that killing her? How will she hold her head up in front of the elders of the Shen family in the future? Moreover, your child with Miss Jiang is already 3 years old. That girl looks 8 points like you. If Miss Gu finds out, it will all be over." Shen Ian reached out and skillfully wiped my chapped lips with a wet tissue over and over again. His voice was filled with the regret of unrequited love. "She won't find out. as long as she's disabled, she can only live in the Shin family's manor for the rest of her life and won't be able to step out even half a step. I promised Nyan Yan that I would hold a grand wedding for her and watch our child grow up with my own eyes. Even if she marries someone else now, I will never let her have any worries. The doctor beside him let out a long sigh and looked at my pale face on the hospital bed. Guwon is a good girl. You clearly grew up together since childhood. Why do you have to hold on to that? Forget it. I won't say any more. As long as you think it's okay, just go ahead, go and prepare for the surgery. Remember, do it cleanly and don't leave any traces. Well, Wan Wan is still not awake. I don't want her to suffer too much. The doctor quickly left the ward. Shen Ian took out his phone and sent a voice message to his assistant. Did that driver not spill the beans? Transfer 2 million yuan to his family as agreed before and help them move out of this city. Don't let Wan Wan find out. Tears fell uncontrollably and were absorbed by the pillow. Shen Ian wiped my body with hot water over and over again, but I still couldn't stop feeling cold all over. It turned out that the wedding I had been looking forward to for 5 years was just making wedding clothes for Jiang Yin. That car accident was by no means an accident. He was just clearing me, the stumbling block. For Jiang Yin, the happiness and fulfillment I thought I had were nothing but a bubble in the water and a flower in the mirror. Lies and hurt were the truth between us. I struggled to open my eyes, but soon, anesthetic was injected into my body. Before being wheeled into the operating room, Shen Ian lovingly kissed my forehead. Be good. It will be over soon, Wan Wan. I'll be waiting for you to come out. The cold instruments kept churning inside my body. My broken heart also turned completely cold when I opened my eyes again. I had already been sent back to the ward. I still had no feeling below my lumbar spine. Shen Ian was by my bedside. When he saw me wake up, his face was filled with worry. He placed my hand in his and gently pressed it against his cheek. Wan Wan, you're awake. Is there anywhere else that hurts? Tell me if it hurts, and I'll ask them to change your dressing. His expression was as loving as ever, but there was no warmth in his eyes anymore. For the sake of another person, one could really go to such lengths. I gently shook my head and touched the stubble on his chin. You haven't slept all night, have you? I'm okay, you can take a rest for a while. Shen Ian didn't think much of it. He relaxed and soon fell into a dream. I picked up the phone he had placed on the bedside table and unlocked it. The wallpaper was still the wedding photo we had taken in advance. The social media app in the background hadn't been logged out. The top contact was marked as Nyan Yan. I clicked into the chat box. Besides cute kitten emojis, there were all group photos of Jiang Yan holding the child. Yuan Yuan is calling for daddy again today. She's so young but already knows that her daddy is handsome. She will definitely be a looks-conscious person in the future. Yuan Yuan had a good appetite today. She ate up all the cake you sent by herself. Yuan Yuan is clamoring to go to the amusement park with daddy. I couldn't persuade her no matter what. Come over if you have time. Shen Ian didn't reply, but there were video records of up to 2 hours under each photo. Remembering what he once said that he didn't like children, I finally understood that it wasn't that he didn't like children, he just didn't like the child born from my womb. He set up a separate photo album for Jiang Yin. The password was the child's birthday. 5,000 photos recorded the child's growth process over 3 years. On every important festival, Shen Ian was by their side. The second chat box in the app was the record of the conversation with the wedding planning company. Since the preparation for the wedding started a month ago, Shen Ian had reported Jiang Yan's name. The wedding dress was in her size. The invitation cards had the handwriting jointly written by the two of them from the very beginning. He had never intended to let me attend this wedding. I smiled deprecatingly and didn't continue looking. I contacted my best friend and asked her to find another hospital abroad for me to have the surgery. I applied to cancel all my certificates in the country. My best friend didn't think much of it and just thought that I had seen Shen Ian's true colors. She was happy for me between the lines. I put down the phone and fell into a deep sleep. When I opened my eyes again, I was awakened by Shen Ian's crying. He was holding the hospital report in his hand, and his shoulders were shaking constantly. Wan Wan, the doctor said that during the examination, it was found that you were born without a uterus and have no fertility. Don't worry, I won't dislike you. No matter what you become, you are my wife. After you are discharged from the hospital, let's adopt a child, okay? With a child to accompany you, you will definitely get better gradually. I was the one who lost my fertility, but he looked even sadder than me. His acting was so realistic that I didn't bother to expose him. After a long silence, looking at the report in his hand, I nodded heavily. Shen Ian was moved to tears and hugged me in his arms. I will definitely take good care of you. Don't be afraid. No matter what others say, I will stand by your side. After we get married, I will transfer all the assets in my name to you as a guarantee for you. our chests were pressed tightly together, but our heartbeats were at different frequencies. After a while, Shan struggled to speak. However, the wedding is already prepared. Now that your body hasn't recovered, it may be necessary to find someone to take my place. Don't lose the face of the Shan family. I knew what he wanted to say. Rather than putting myself in a passive position, it was better to bring it up on my own initiative. At least I could maintain some dignity. Shan was amazed at the change in my attitude, but since his wish had been fulfilled, he didn't want to pursue the matter further. The phone rang. He took a look and said in surprise, "Wan, what certificates did you cancel?" I quickly deleted the message and calmly explained, "It's nothing, the certificates have expired, and I can just replace them online." He didn't think much of it. He hugged me even tighter, and his tone was full of distress. "You're not in a convenient state now. If you need anything, tell me, and I'll handle it for you." Shan, I want to be discharged from the hospital. His emotions suddenly became tense. "No. Your body hasn't recovered yet." "I don't agree." I tugged at his arm and swayed, smiling brightly. "Didn't you say you wanted to take me to adopt a child? There are nannies at home to take care of me, and nothing will happen. I want to go to the Welfare Institute and have a look." Okay, we had been together for 5 years, and this was the first time I acted coquettishly with him. Shan couldn't resist me and softened his heart and agreed. On the way, he took out the cakes that had already been prepared in the car and placed them in front of me one by one. He said he bought them specially for me, but the instruction on the packaging that it was edible for young children still stung my eyes. I closed the bag, threw the cake behind me, and closed my eyes on the pretext of not feeling well. This 5-year-long deception was about to end. As soon as we entered the Welfare Institute, I was sitting in a wheelchair. A little girl rushed up familiarly and hugged Shan leg tightly. She kept calling Daddy on her lips. Shan face changed, afraid that I would be suspicious. He quickly explained, "Don't get me wrong, I sponsor this Welfare Institute. I've come to visit a few times before. This child is an orphan and has always called me like this." I nodded and smiled as I touched the child's face. "She looks a lot like you. If you hadn't said it, I would have thought this was your child." "What's her name?" Yuan. "The one I'm going to adopt." Before he could explain further, Yuan started crying and shouting for her mother. Shan face instantly turned pale. He frowned tightly and looked at me. "I'm okay, go and comfort her. This child is beautiful, and I like her too." My words made him heave a sigh of relief. Shan didn't think much more and carried the child into the office. I made an excuse to go to the bathroom and avoided, but there were constant whispers from the employees at the door. "Why does Mr. Shan make his own child pretend to be an orphan? That outfit is all high-end luxury, more expensive than my life. Who would believe that she's an orphan? What do you know? Mr. Shan has already arranged everything. This is the only way to let the child enter the Shan family legally. Be smarter when you go out later and don't let it slip in front of Miss Gu." Sure enough, the person closest to Mr. Shan's heart is still Miss Jiang. They both liked to come here to participate in activities when they were in college. I could tell back then. I didn't expect it to come true now. A man and a woman are staying in the same room. Maybe they are already. The ambiguous laughter reached my ears, pressing on my chest so hard that I could hardly breathe. I moved the wheelchair to the door, and a familiar voice came from inside. "Is he treating you well?" "Pretty good. It's just that he's abroad all year round, and there are some things he can't take care of. It's okay like this. He won't find out about Yuan, and he's even pestering me to have a child for him." Shan smiled with his lips curled, but his eyes were full of bitterness. "You don't have to worry about Yuan once she's taken into the Shan family. If there's anything you need help with, just send me a message. By the way, this is the bracelet I just bought. Consider it a wedding gift for you." Jian took the gift box and winked playfully. "Why are you giving me something again? How many wedding gifts have you given me in the year since we got married? My cloakroom can't even hold them all." Wan will definitely be unhappy if she finds out." As she spoke, she didn't stop the action of accepting the gift. Beside her, Yuan smiled and threw herself beside her, calling her mom nonstop. The director was in a hurry to handle the formalities and rushed in front of me and pushed the door open. A trace of panic flashed in Shan eyes. Wan, why did you come here?" "Don't think too much. Jian is a volunteer at this Welfare Institute. She just happened to come over today to have a look and discuss the matter of me adopting Yuan. Jian stood up, held Yuan in her arms, and waved at me. "Wan, long time no see." I sat in the wheelchair and nodded with a smile, suppressing my grievances and saying, "It's okay, I'm just taking a stroll. Since you're busy, I won't trouble you. I'll wait for you in the car." After saying that, I turned around and left. Shen Ian thought I was angry and came after me to explain for a long time. Don't get me wrong, she often comes here to sponsor and participate in activities. All the children in the institute call her mom. I will explain to Yuan after the adoption formalities are completed. Looking at the way he was anxious for me, I suddenly felt like laughing. In order to let the child enter the family legally, he didn't hesitate to cause a car accident to make me disabled. Now that his wish had come true, who was he showing his grievances to? Don't worry, I'm not such an unreasonable person. You handle the formalities well, and I'll wait for you in the car obediently. He let out a sigh of relief and watched me return to the car. Every employee who passed by looked at me with mockery in their eyes. I ignored them and took out my phone to cancel the certificates online. To celebrate Shen Ian bringing the child home, the Shen family held a family banquet. I made an excuse that my body hadn't recovered and hid on the second floor to rest, but the sneering laughter of Shen Ian's parents downstairs still came through the crack of the door. I moved the wheelchair and stood at the corner of the stairs. I looked at the harmonious scene of the family of 3 downstairs. Shen Ian attentively put the food that Yuan liked into her exclusive plate. Jiang Yan smiled and bantered with him. She said that if he continued like this, he would surely spoil the child sooner or later. Shen Ian didn't care and stroked the little crown on Yuan's head. My daughter is amazing no matter what she does. The grievances pent up in my chest finally burst out. I returned to the room and tore up all the things Shen Ian had given me in the past 5 years and threw them into the trash can. The moment the trash can tipped over, Jiang Yan suddenly appeared in front of me. She kicked over my wheelchair. I was in so much pain that I was sweating all over, but she raised a smiling face. Gu Wan, it must be very painful to become a disabled person, right? After all these years, you're still as useless as ever. Seeing your own wedding replaced with my name, seeing your husband bring back my daughter, and you still have to swallow your anger. I feel sorry for you. I struggled to get up. The next second, Jiang Yan leaned backward and fell straight down the stairs. I hadn't even reacted yet. Shen Ian had already held the person in his arms. The look in his eyes as he stared at me was filled with anger. Gu Wan, what are you doing? Have you gone crazy? Yan kindly went up to call you for dinner. Why did you lay a hand on her? Shen Ian's parents also looked at me with dissatisfaction. Yuan stood beside them, wailing loudly, "Bad woman, the bad woman is bullying mom. I don't want this bad woman to enter our home. I want mom, I want mom." Jiang Yan weakly wrapped her arm around Shen Ian's shoulder. "I'm sorry, I just told Wan that I agreed to attend the wedding on her behalf. I didn't expect her to misunderstand me. Don't blame Wan, she didn't do it on purpose." I lay on the ground in a sorry state, a cold sneer curling my lips. Shen Ian, about the wedding, the car accident, and the child, don't you owe me an explanation? Shen Ian furrowed his brows, a trace of panic flashing in his eyes. What explanation? What does the car accident you had have to do with Jiang Yan? She kindly agreed to attend the wedding for you. Instead of being grateful, you laid a hand on her. Gu Wan, when did you become like this? Apologize to Jiang Yan. Before I could say anything, Shen Ian's parents had already turned cold. She's a disabled person herself but still can't stay quiet. Does she really think she's still the daughter of the Gu family? Who else but my son would want a useless person? Alright, leave her alone. Her being disabled today is her retribution. Hurry up and send Yan to the hospital. Make sure she's not seriously hurt. My nails dug deeply into my palm, and blood kept flowing from my lower body. Shen Ian held Jiang Yan in one hand and held the child's hand with the other. Just like that, they left the house. The love I had for him over the past 5 years turned to ashes at this moment. I clumsily climbed back into the wheelchair. I bought a plane ticket for the day of the wedding for myself. Then I turned and went to the hotel. That night, Shen Ian sent a message to explain. After all, Jiang Yan is going to attend the wedding for you. You hurt her, and it won't look good at the wedding. Asking you to apologize was just a temporary measure, just acting for her. Don't think too much about it. My parents just said those words casually. I'll take them to apologize to you after the wedding. You have a good rest. I prepared a surprise for you, and it will arrive on the day of the wedding. You will definitely like it. But I knew that this act wasn't for Jiang Yan at all. It was for me. He had pretended to be affectionate for 5 years now. It was time for it to end. I didn't go home for the next 2 days. Shen Ian didn't go back either. He was busy preparing the wedding venue. He took care of everything personally. On the morning of the wedding, I called him. He was busy giving instructions to his assistant and didn't pay attention to me. Mr. Shen, are you sure you want to transfer half of the company's shares to Miss Jiang? After all, she's not a member of the Shen family. Isn't this too risky? Do as I say. This half is the compensation I promised her, and the other half is for the child. You personally receive the wedding guests and be careful of the Gu family coming too. 'Cause trouble. After the assistant left, Shan remembered the phone call that was still connected. Wan, sorry to keep you waiting, the wedding is about to start, I'll come back to accompany you as soon as it's over, don't be unhappy. I looked at the plane ticket in my hand, expressionless. Then you're busy, I won't disturb you. Shan, happy wedding. He was stunned for a second, then laughed loudly. It's us who are having a happy wedding, wait for me at home obediently, after. The call was hung up. I turned around and got on the plane. After receiving the text message that the cancellation of the certificates was successful, I deleted all his contact information. The wedding began. Shan mind kept replaying that phone call, and a sense of unease welled up in his heart. He turned to his assistant and gave instructions. Go and check where Gu is. She will definitely cause trouble since I'm having a wedding with someone else. After the ceremony, Shan held Jiang Yan's hand and toasted the guests one by one. The assistant rushed over in a hurry, his face pale. Something's wrong, Mr. Shen. Miss Gu took a plane and left this morning, and that flight just crashed into the sea. As soon as the words fell, the entire wedding venue fell silent. Shan face, which had been filled with joy and excitement just now, instantly turned pale. The wine glass in his hand fell to the ground, but he didn't care about the so-called face of the Shen family. He grabbed the assistant's collar with one hand. His eyes were full of anger. What did you say? Say it again. Where is Gu Wan? Jiang Yan beside him wanted to hold him back. She kept speaking to comfort his emotions. Ian, don't be impulsive. Everyone is watching. And your parents are here too. Let's talk about it later. Ian, listening to her softly worried words, Shan couldn't calm down as he used to this time. He shook off Jiang Yan with his other hand. He pulled the assistant to a secluded corner. What exactly happened to Gu Wan? Shouldn't she be waiting for me obediently at the Shen family? We even talked on the phone this morning, and she clearly promised me. Perhaps due to his emotional agitation, even Shan himself didn't notice that his voice was trembling uncontrollably. He didn't know why he was so agitated, but the moment he heard that something had happened to me, his emotions suddenly got out of control. The assistant panicked and quickly showed him the news of the plane crash on his phone. Miss Gu did take this flight. I just found out. These 2 days, the Shen family said they were going to hold a wedding for you and were short of staff. All the servants in the villa were borrowed to the hotel, and there was no one to take care of Miss Gu at home. I've already checked her registration information, and it's indeed this flight. I've also watched the surveillance footage of the villa. Miss Gu left the night before last, the night you took Miss Jiang away. The hand on the collar dropped weakly. Shan was overwhelmed by a deep sense of powerlessness for the first time. He didn't even have the strength to stand up. After a long while, he said softly, it can't be. Wan promised me that she would wait for me to go back at home and even wished us a happy wedding. No, it's not right, she said. She wished me and Jiang Yan a happy wedding. His voice was very soft, and the assistant could hardly hear it if he didn't listen carefully. Sensing something was wrong, the assistant hesitated and said, Mr. Shen, did Miss Gu find out about the things you've done? Otherwise, with her physical condition, it's impossible for her to leave at this time. If that's really the case, I'm afraid. The words were left unfinished, but Shan had already predicted the result. However, he didn't want to believe the bloody truth in front of him. He chose to deceive himself. No, it's impossible. Wan won't find out. With her personality, if she knew something, she would definitely come to question me immediately, but she didn't say anything, and she didn't send me any messages in the past 2 days. I clearly explained the things that happened at the banquet to her, and she didn't blame me. She won't leave just like this. I won't allow it. Search for her. Search every corner if you have to. I want to see her alive. If she's dead, I will bury her body with my own hands. For the last sentence, Shan almost roared it out with all his strength. The assistant was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly turned around to investigate my whereabouts. As soon as he left, Jiang Yan approached. She was still as weak and gentle as before. She gently took Shan arm. What's wrong? Did something happen to Wan? I knew she was angry because I was attending the wedding for her, but today is a big event for the Shen family. Several company bosses are here, and the elders of the Shen family are also at the scene. No matter how naughty she is, she shouldn't be angry with you at this time, and she even lied to you about the plane crash. She's being too willful. Ian, you spoil her too much. I know Wan. She has no friends here. She will come back when she figures it out on her own. Don't be too worried. Your parents are still waiting for you to toast them outside. In the past, Shan might have believed her words. He might have chosen to wait for me to go back and admit my mistake obediently, but this time, he remembered my abnormal attitude. The surging emotions in his heart couldn't calm down no matter what. After a long time, he shook off Jiang Yan's arm and his face turned cold. Jiang Yan, I'm warning you one last time, you're just attending the wedding on behalf of Wan Wan. Wan Wan is my wife in name. My parents are not something you can call casually. A trace of unwillingness and resentment flashed in Jiang Yan's eyes. Before she could speak, Yuan ran up to the two of them. She gently tugged at the hem of Shen Yan's pants and swayed it. Daddy, Grandpa and Grandma are calling you over. Can we just ignore that bad woman? Yuan wants to see Mommy and Daddy together. Upon hearing the words bad woman, Shen Yan's cold expression became even uglier. He stared straight at Jiang Yan. Did you teach Yuan that? Jiang Yan, the child is still young. What have you been teaching her? If you can't take care of the child, Yuan will be taken care of by my parents in the future. Don't interfere anymore. After saying that, he didn't give Jiang Yan a chance to refute. He turned around and walked into the hall. The news of the plane crash was still lighting up on the phone screen. The veins on Shen Yan's hand were bulging. As he walked from the entrance of the hall to the front, all he could hear around him were the guests' curses and dislikes towards me. I heard that Miss Jiang is attending the wedding on someone else's behalf. Could Mr. Shen really have fallen for that disabled woman from the Gu family? How could that be? The Gu family has already moved abroad to settle down. Gu Wan doesn't have a single relative here. For such a big event as a wedding, no one from her family came. Mr. Shen must not have forgotten Miss Jiang in his heart. This is a calculated move. Didn't you see how grand this wedding is? I don't believe he didn't plan it in advance. Stop talking. Miss Gu is also pitiful. Not only did she become disabled in a car accident, but she also lost her fertility. She will be a useless person for the rest of her life. After all, she's the only daughter of the Gu family, and now she's ended up like this. With every word those people said, Shen Yan's face became uglier. How could this be? Clearly, after the car accident, he had asked everyone to block the news of Gu Wan's accident. It was even more impossible for the perpetrator to talk too much. As long as he waited until the wedding was over, Gu Wan would be his wife in name. He would live a good life with her in the future. He would watch Yuan grow up. He would protect Gu Wan well and wouldn't let anyone look down on her because of her injuries. But why did the news leak out? He hadn't seen Gu Wan in the past 2 days. What exactly had happened during this period? Had these people scolded her to her face? Had she been bullied? All these doubts lingered in his heart. It weighed on him so much that he could hardly breathe. When Shen Yan's parents saw him come back, both of them heaved a sigh of relief. But what they said next dealt a fatal blow to him. Ian, since something has happened to Gu Wan, let Nian enter our family in the future. Anyway, Gu Wan is a useless person. It's unlucky to keep her at home. Pick a time and get the marriage certificate. It's been a long time since there was such a big happy event in the Shen family. After the wedding, I'll go back and ask the servants to clean out Gu Wan's room and make it your wedding room. Shen Yan stood there, stunned, looking at the delighted faces of his parents. For the first time, he felt disgusted. What marriage certificate? Didn't Jiang Yan already get married to someone else abroad? Shen Yan's mother glanced at him and chuckled. If we didn't say that, how would you believe it? It's all for the sake of letting Yuan enter our family. Nian was willing to ruin her reputation to let the child recognize her ancestors. You insisted on sticking with that Gu Wan, so we had no choice. Anyway, that disabled woman is gone now. Just as well, Nian doesn't have to act anymore. From now on, you'll be a family. Her going abroad before was out of necessity, and we don't blame her anymore. These words almost made Shen Yan lose his mind. The proud faces of his parents stabbed deeply into his heart, remembering the questions he had asked Jiang Yan these days. Every time he mentioned her husband abroad, Jiang Yan always avoided the topic. She had never taken the initiative to talk about how they met. There were no traces of her husband's existence in her WeChat moments either. He was so stupid that he had only just discovered the truth behind her lies, and he had killed his wife-to-be in order to bring Yuan home. Gu Wan didn't have any relatives or friends in the country. She had stayed here for his sake. He had also promised that he would be Gu Wan's support for the rest of her life. He would never betray their relationship. But what had he done now? The feelings of guilt and regret tugged at his heart. After a long while, Shen Yan said in a cold voice, my wife will only be Gu Wan, whether she's alive or dead. I will only marry her. I don't care whether Jiang Yan is married or single. That one-night stand with her 3 years ago was a mistake. If I had known that Yuan would be born, I would never have had anything to do with her again. Since this wedding is what you wanted, you can deal with the consequences yourself. I will find my wife even if I have to risk my life. After saying that, Shen Yan turned around and left. Before he could walk out of the hall, Jiang Yan quickly ran up to him. She was holding Yuan Yuan in her arms. Jiang Yan was so anxious that she burst into tears. Yuan Yuan accidentally broke a cup just now, and her arm was cut. Where are you going? Can you send the child to the hospital first? Blood dripped down Yuan Yuan's thin arm. At the same time, Shen Yan's phone rang. It was a call from his assistant. He didn't look at Jiang Yan anymore. He just left a sentence. Take a taxi by yourself. Leave the child to my parents to take care of in the future. Then he left the wedding venue. As soon as he went out, he immediately answered the assistant's call. How is it? Have you found Gu Wan? The assistant let out a long sigh. Mr. Shen, I've searched everywhere I can. Now I only know that Miss Gu stayed in a hotel 2 nights before she left, and I have her boarding information at the airport. There's nothing else. You'd better go and ask the rescue team. After all, this time, the body might have been salvaged already. Before the assistant could finish speaking, Shen Yan hung up the phone in a hurry. He didn't believe it. He didn't believe that Gu Wan would leave him alone. He even more didn't believe that Gu Wan would have an accident on that flight. He got into the car. He stepped on the accelerator wildly all the way, eager to rush to the rescue team and inquire. But after passing 2 intersections, he suddenly hit the brakes and stopped by the roadside. He slapped himself twice in the face, filled with sadness. He was the one who caused that car accident. He was also the one who personally ordered and arranged the surgery. Gu Wan was in a weak physical condition now. Even a normal person might not have survived the air crash. With her condition, how could she have a chance to live? In the midst of his emotional breakdown, he took out his phone and opened the chat box with Gu Wan, looking at the avatar on the opposite side with a beaming smile. It seemed as if Gu Wan was still by his side. At such a moment, only by looking at the traces of Gu Wan's existence could he barely feel at ease. He reached out his hand, trembling, and stroked Gu Wan's avatar again and again. The chat record was still from 2 days ago. He had explained to Gu Wan about that banquet that night. His words were sincere, but Gu Wan never replied. She had never not replied to his messages before, no matter what she was doing. His messages were always set as special reminders. Gu Wan would also answer his calls immediately. When did she start changing? Shen Yan didn't even realize it himself. It seemed that everything had become different since the car accident. Scrolling up the chat records, it was the wedding that Gu Wan had been looking forward to for 5 years. Ian, does this wedding dress look good? I want a sparkling dress. I can't waste my long legs. Shall we take our wedding photos in this style? Then we can print them out and hang them in the most prominent place at the wedding venue. I want the whole world to see my happiness and that I have such a loving husband. Ian, the size of the wedding ring we bought last time seems a bit big. Can I change it? Didn't you say you wanted to give me a surprise? Could it be that you designed the wedding ring yourself? You're so kind. He had indeed designed a wedding ring himself, but it was for Jiang Yan. Those dresses were just props for him to perfunctorily deal with Gu Wan. The wedding that Gu Wan had been longing for and looking forward to for 5 years. He had been lying to her from the very beginning, but she had never noticed and had always been immersed in the joy of love. She thought she had found the person who loved her the most in the world as her support. The joy between the lines of the girl's words made Shen Yan cry uncontrollably. Tears fell on the screen. He sent messages to Gu Wan over and over again, pouring out his long-lasting love for her, expressing his debt to her. But when the messages were sent out, all he received were red exclamation marks. Gu Wan had blocked him. Shen Yan didn't hesitate any longer and drove to the rescue team again, but it was all too late. The rescue team couldn't find any trace of Gu Wan in the sea at all. At the same time, I landed by plane and had already arrived abroad. That air crash was a trap I deliberately set for Shen Yan. He wanted me to be disabled, to live a life worse than death, and to live in lies as a gift. As a return, before leaving, I also gave him a big gift. My best friend came to pick me up at the airport and saw me sitting in a wheelchair. She cried so much that her makeup was all smudged. How could this be? That scumbag Shen Yan promised to take good care of you, didn't he? Did he do this? Why can the surgery only be done abroad? It must be him, right? Gu Wan, can't you see his true colors yet? Are you still going to cover for him? I smiled and wiped the tears from the corner of her eye. I'm fine. I'm all right, aren't I? I chose to stay by his side before. Now, let this be a lesson. I don't want to be entangled with him anymore. It's better to leave like this. How's the surgery arranged? I want to wait until I recover before going home. I don't want my family to worry. My best friend nodded hastily. It's already arranged. I've invited an expert here. He's seen the medical records and said that the probability of the surgery being successful is very high. We just can't delay it. I'll take you there right now. The Surgery lasted for 5 hours. The doctor said that fortunately, I had come in time. If I had delayed it for 2 more days, I would never be able to stand up again now. I just need to wait for my body to recover, do training slowly, and it won't be difficult to return to a normal life. I didn't pay attention to the news from my home country anymore, but the Shin family was too influential. My phone pushed news every day. At the Shin family's wedding, the groom fled the wedding halfway. Jiang Yin became the laughingstock of everyone. The parents of the Shin family came forward to explain that Jiang Yin was the daughter-in-law of the Shin family. As soon as the statement was released, it was exposed by Shin Yin. He registered an account with his real name and posted our wedding photo online, and he threatened that his wife would only be Gu Wan in this life. Yuan Yuan was taken back to the Shin family by Shin Yin. He threatened with his own life and didn't allow Jiang Yin to appear in the Shin family, otherwise, he would destroy all the foundations of the Shin family. The parents of the Shin family were reluctant, but they couldn't resist their only son. They could only do as he said. Jiang Yan's dream of marrying into a wealthy family was shattered. The two families completely fell out. They fought a lawsuit for the custody of Yuan Yuan, but as the father of the child, Shin Yan never explained for her. Looking at the abuse of Shin Yan in the comment section, I couldn't understand him more and more. All of this was clearly his own choice. Now that I was making way for him and Jiang Yin, who was he pretending this belated affection for? I didn't open the news from my home country anymore and focused on recuperating in the hospital room. My best friend came to take care of me almost every day. The days weren't boring, but Shin Yan was the complete opposite. He couldn't find any trace of me for a whole week. He drank alcohol every day and was rarely sober when he was sent to the emergency room due to a perforated stomach. Looking at his brother who grew up with him, he doubted himself for the first time. Did I do something wrong? Gu Wan didn't die, right? I've searched all the rescue teams. There's no sign of her body. The boarding information must be fake, right? The Gu family has great power. All of this is her punishment for me. The doctor was helpless and let out a long sigh. To be honest with you, when Gu Wan was in a coma before, although she didn't open her eyes, she still had consciousness. She knew everything you did. When she was having the surgery, I saw the tears in the corner of her eye. Ian, you've broken her heart completely, and she won't come back. I advised you from the beginning. You and Gu Wan were the right couple. Jiang Yin was just a passing bubble that appeared briefly during your college years. Once she's gone, it should be over. You were living in the past, and I couldn't wake you up. Gu Wan's appearance once became your salvation. I thought that since you were childhood sweethearts, you wouldn't be disturbed by Jiang Yin, but you still made the wrong choice. Jiang Yin is not a good person. The ideas she gave you were to completely destroy Gu Wan, yet you were obsessed with it, and now you have no way back. Do you really think that the one-night stand between you and Jiang Yin abroad 3 years ago was an accident? You know everything in your heart. From the moment you planted this seed, your relationship with Gu Wan was already broken. Only then did Shin Yan understand what he had missed, what he had lost, but it was too late. Regardless of his body that had just undergone surgery, he took a taxi to the police station to report the case. Since that was the case, I would grant his wish. A day later, he appeared outside my hospital room abroad, watching me leaning on a crutch and struggling to do the rehabilitation training. Tears fell uncontrollably. Bloodshot eyes appeared in his tired eyes. He didn't say anything, nor did he make any sound. Just like that, he hid behind the wall and stared blankly for a long time. Before leaving, he left a note and asked the nurse to give it to me. It said, "I promise you that I won't see you for half of my life. This is the last promise I make to you."